This is how bad it is over at Marianne 2024 is that she's on Roseanne's podcast. That when you get the call, we're not going to do all of this because why the fuck would you? Good Lord. But you can, this is the kind of, by the way, this is the kind of situation that gets you to fire your entire comms team. In normal politics, this is where you go, all right, fuck you guys, get out of here. You know, when they walk in and they're like, we got you booked on what? A podcast. Okay, those are cool. Roseanne, the fuck out of my office. Empty your desk. Someone will escort you out of here. Lord Almighty. So this is about Citizens United was the death knell to American democracy. Okay, first of all, Citizens United was a huge deal before social media. Now that social media is as big as it is and can reach as many people as it does, and God forbid ChatGPT and all this other stuff, the cost of actually doing massive, like direct messaging to voters has just gone in the toilet. So it's nickels compared to what used to be millions. Okay. So the idea that this is still relevant or a fight worth fighting, I got to be honest. There was a period where we need to get money out of politics because it was the way you guaranteed that, ads on television versus, not having any or billboards or shit like that. None of that matters on the scale, especially with the targeted voters these days. The main way you're reaching people is through their phones, and it doesn't cost a fucking dime. It's, beyond what, the regular posting that everybody else pays for Facebook ads and the same shit like that. So the idea that somehow it has the same weight it did when it passed is absurd. People keep saying this as if it's still 2004. And I find it hilarious, but here we go. She'll explain it to us.
I want your opinion on this, honestly, because, this, I don't know if I just want to hear what you have to say about it. Well, I won't ask you that way. I'll say when I was interviewed on the Jimmy Kimmel show and he said, why did you, why are you so this and that? And I said, well, I just feel like the Democrat Party moved so far to the left that it just fell off the cliff and left me behind. And I'm
yeah, but in all, with all due respect to what Jimmy Kimmel's actual fucking question was, and your kind of half-assed remembrance of that exchange, you think Democratic Party elites, the people who run the party, who are, by the way, voted in by their voters, or they wouldn't have access to that kind of thing, or are picked by the party itself. It's not, no one's crowned. It's not some sort of weird picking a pope situation where they go into a hidden room, they're voted and balloted on, all this stuff. You believe that those people are eating the livers of African babies because they taste sweeter than the livers of American babies because of Roundup. So
exactly the same as I always was, but it went so far into the minority opinion that it marginalized the majority of its own party. Mm-hmm. You must feel something about that. Or how do you feel about me saying that?
Well, you asked two different questions. How do I feel about what you said? And you also asked, what do I feel about you saying it? I feel about you saying it, we're having a conversation. What you said, though.
How do you feel about Hitler's speeches? Well, I'm listening to words and I don't really speak German and I can read the transcription at the bottom and words are passing across the bottom of the screen. And sometimes that happens if you're watching, YouTube at Donald Trump's house.
I have a different perspective, but how I feel about you saying it is fine. But my different perspective.
Except that it's lunacy.
Which I appreciate that you asked with a genuine, respect, is that my problem with the Democratic Party
is that they move too far to the right. Gee, it's almost like both of these ladies are fucking lunatics at different ends of the spectrum. It's fantastic. Why deal with the complexity of multiple issues when you can just go, I think they went too far that way. Well, I think they went too far that way. I think we're both going too far this way. My goodness. If I only had a brain.
Is almost the opposite of what you
Almost.
said.
Directly the opposite. It's directly the opposite.
My problem with the Democratic Party is that they have been.
Where'd the cigarette come from all of a sudden? Just, oh God, I love saying what I said about the fucking left went to the left, too far to the left, and they were left out in the left.
Become too beholden, the establishment elite.
Oh God, two of them right out. Establishment and elite. Do not do a drinking game during this clip or you will die of alcohol poisoning.
Has become too beholden to its.
Never say never. Come on, Hal, the Dems moved right for 30 years? No, they have not. No party that goes from like their position on abortion in the 80s and the Hyde Amendment and all that kind of stuff to where we are now, or gay marriage to where we are now, or from creating the ACA based on, you know, how they felt in the 80s, has moved to the fucking right. It hasn't happened. That's ridiculous. Because you think they should move further to the left does not mean they are moving right. And either way, we're not even talking about the scale of how many degrees or what slight direction and any of that. Both of these knuckleheads think, like, Roseanne thinks the Democratic Party is run by cannibal communists. And Marianne, the other Ann, because we got Rose and Mary, Marianne thinks they've gone so far to the right that they're to the right of Raytheon executives who don't live in the country. Please.
Corporate donors, which is my same problem with the Republican Party, by the way. And that goes back to what we were saying. The problem is the same. My problem is that they, you know, when you come to big oil, I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans, they fall in line.
Because you have to innovate your way out of this problem. And everyone, for the most part, the vast majority of vehicles are run on petroleum products. We are surrounded. Does anybody want to count the number of fucking things besides her jacket that contains petroleum products? Both plastics and rayons and like the fucking frame of that picture, the fact that that's plastic and not glass in that frame, the fucking thermometer. She's in front of the bathroom at this hotel, which, I mean, you want a number? Yeah, the lipstick she's wearing, the number of fucking things she has that require petroleum-based products. And none of the people who are saying end petroleum now are doing with plastics in their life what vegans do with leather. And if you want to fucking impress me, give that shit a try. And again, unless you want to open a gigantic fucking glass factory to replace all the plastics that we use in the medical industry, and then you want to then talk to me about the cost of medicine and medical treatment in the country. We have to innovate our way out of this.
When it comes to the defense industry, I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat, they fall in line.
Oh, that's her son, by the way. He's a complete lunatic. He also agrees that Democrat elites eat baby livers in Africa because they taste sweeter, because they don't use Roundup, because they don't use chemical fertilizers in Africa, because this guy's that fucking dumb.
That's the problem. The far left stuff that's the extreme,
which I don't even like saying,
is not.
But they've managed to marginalize the vast middle of their own party, don't you think?
See, to me, that goes back to left, right, middle, and to me, all of that is hiding. It's about it's not about any of that to me. I mean, that's just people who make me want to roll my eyes. It's just like, whatever, ignore that. Do you know what I mean? That's so profound.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I know the feeling. When either of you speak and her son speaks, I have that same fucking reflex. My eyes want to roll so hard that I'm afraid they won't come back, and I'll just walk around the rest of my life like this.
Formative. That's so politically correct. That's whatever. But that's not reflected.
That's her trying to suck up to Roseanne, saying politically correct.
In what's really going on. It's really going on here. That none of that is denying people health. None of that is denying people the ability to send their kids to college. In the 1970s, which you and I definitely remember, okay?
Yes, we do.
No, I think Marianne remembers a little more of it than Roseanne does. I think it's debatable how much of anything Roseanne remembers.
The average American worker, whoever thought we'd be nostalgic for the 1970s, right?
When interest rates for buying a house were at 19%.
Things have changed. Okay, in the 19
when we were more beholden to Middle Eastern oil than we are now.
1970s, the average American worker could afford a house.
Right.
The average American worker could afford a car.
Right.
The average American worker could afford a yearly vacation.
Yes, and if you'll recall, those houses were full of flammable plastics and elements that were, the paint had lead in it, and the structure itself was less sound, and they were less efficient in the winter. They didn't hold the heat in the winter and keep cool in the summer. They were the construction on them was fucking balsa wood compared to modern stuff. Also, cars back then had lap fucking seatbelts, didn't have airbags, didn't have GPS. Fucking used cars now are the equivalent, have devices in them. Used cars you can get for $5,000 have shit in them that is the equivalent of Bond cars in the 70s. All right. In our house in Kentucky, one of the rooms for 4 years when we were there had a dirt fucking floor. Because we couldn't afford to build out the floor in that room. It was just the ground. Just kind of like, just looked at it kind of like an interior porch. Okay? Like, think about the windows on your fucking house right now compared to the windows in the 70s. Jesus Christ, they didn't even have safety glass on fucking shower doors. If you fell through a shower door in the 70s, you were cut to fucking ribbons. That's why houses got more expensive. They also got safer because your life had more value. Same thing with cars. We got shoulder fucking straps. We got child seats. They crumple zones, side impact barriers. Yes. Ugh. I swear to fucking God. Yeah, shower doors, curtains, exactly. You had a basement office with a dirt floor? I see you. I know you. Stop acting like you can make a comparison here. Also, she lived in New York in the 70s. Roseanne's probably closer to what I'm expressing if her mythology is true at all.
Right.
The average American couple could afford to send their kids to college.
But not university. No one went to university. There weren't that many universities. There were certainly no digital universities. Nobody could go to fucking college unless they could fucking get there and live there. Bullshit. You act like everybody in the fucking 70s could have sent their kids to college. They just didn't.
And the average American worker, a couple could afford, if they wanted to, for one parent to stay home.
Which is increasingly going to become true again and is already moving in that direction.
That's right.
That's, to me, where we need to be.
Also, no. The average American didn't fucking average American nothing. In the South, most women stayed home because that was the culture of the actual area they were in. And in the cities, everybody fucking worked because you were just ice skating uphill every goddamn day. And it averaged itself out city to country. All you're saying with average is half the people couldn't do any of that shit, and the other half could do more than that. There was all right. Just bullshit.
Zoning in. And it's because of a $50 trillion transfer of wealth into the hands of a very few people.
No. That $50 trillion of wealth was fucking created out of nowhere. It didn't exist. We're not talking about shit that was in the ground. They didn't find gold. This isn't about oil anymore. The $50 trillion worth of wealth that has been created since the fucking 70s, what little of it that's been in real estate or other material goods or whatever was all invention. The fucking home computer and the internet itself is responsible for more than half of that. That wasn't taken from fucking anybody. That wasn't stolen from fucking people. The fact that you have a computer right now that costs, $800, that's stronger than any computer that ran the fucking NASA mission, is not about, oh my God, they stole my wealth. You could build a fucking business at home now in a way that you never fucking could. That's where that fucking $50 trillion came from. Yes, the pie got bigger. You can talk about actually giving a shit about those that are left behind or those that don't have opportunity without creating this fucking bullshit that they just basically came up and fucking put a mining pick in the top of people's heads and just spooned out the insides of their brains and put it in a jar. And like, we're stealing the brains of the working class. Get the fuck out of here.
That's
now,
right.
I don't think any political party should feel self-congratulatory right now.
Why? You think you think what's going on in the United States, even at its worst, is fucking like Yemen? You think that the instability in sections of the world is just accidental, and that the stability that we have in the United States or whatever isn't the process of constant fucking gardening and the battling back and forth? Yes, Easy Heat Network. Yes. Literally dirt poor, I guess, is a great example. The fact that she is surrounded by petroleum products, was driven there more than likely either in an Uber that ran on gas or a Tesla to the hotel she's in, wherever the fuck she is on the campaign trail, and will at every stop have rows of bottled water for her staff and for herself that's all plastic, that's all made from petroleum products, all that shit. Everybody gets there is driven in gas cars, everybody that's leaving. And none of this is about, we need to innovate this. We need a scientific, like an Apollo program, which is exactly what Biden's doing, which is why she's not saying it, but whatever the ass. That, to solve this, instead of, this just shouldn't be, this is bad, this shouldn't be, it's bad. And I blame everyone but my own participation in that system is so fucking lazy.
Right.
In my view of things, a Republican president started it, and no Democratic president has stopped it.
Stopped what? The Afghanistan war? What? Excuse me. Jimmy Carter put solar panels on the fucking, what, you want to talk about the 70s? On the White House, and Ronald Reagan took them down. And it wasn't until Clinton started with small initiatives moving in this direction. That's why, who killed the electric car arcs up during the Clinton administration, right down again when we get a Republican oil man in the fucking White House. And then we get Obama in there. He lays, the Obama-Biden administration lays the seeds for what Biden is doing now. The biggest, greatest push towards renewable energy in the history of humanity. And she's like, they just do whatever their donors want them to do because Exxon's pulling their strings. Shut the fuck up. Stop it. You know how cruel, unethical, and immoral it is to attribute immorality or even to some degree acts of violence to total fucking strangers. You know how awful that is? Those people, they do evil stuff because it's just who they are. I wouldn't do that. Not me. But those people, those are the people that do that. All those people, I don't know, they seem to be actually writing and passing legislation that's moving the ball down the field. It's actually making greater investments in green technology than we've ever fucking seen. No. That's just, I roll my eyes at that. That's just cover, Roseanne. That's just cover. The fuck out of here.
I'm a Democrat, so I feel that the Democrats at least try to have it both ways. At least they...
Shut up.
To me...
So lame. This is so lame.
You know, I'm a Democrat. I believe in Franklin...
Citation needed.
Roosevelt's Democratic Party. I believe in a party of...
So you don't believe in the integration of the military? One moment to find out. I need my cursor on my my mouse here. Let's see. Let's see. So, I mean, while we're being purists, I guess. What is this? Why in this? What are you doing, you strange people? Why FDR chose not to desegregate the military? Chose not to. I guess, you got to have a standard, I suppose, right? So, hold on, I move this in so I can see more of you guys. Hi, guys. By the way, I'm not directly shitting on Roosevelt for this particular reason. I'm just, the way she throws it around, it's as if he would have passed some sort of weird purity test and by modern standards, and he absolutely fucking wouldn't. Stop it. Stop holding people in a different... yeah, his VP did. That's absolutely right. Which he was... Roosevelt was against. Yeah, thank you. Yes, thanks again, Harry Truman. Brother Mason. I should desegregate Chad and Chip. They're thick as thieves. Yeah, no one is pure. This is just silly. But the idea that she talks about him in these kind of deified terms. I'm this kind of a Demmer. That's what makes me good. So ignore anything that I didn't like about what he did and focus only on the things that you don't like or you don't think are moving fast enough in other fucking people. Joe Biden gives you the most integrated cabinet and the most integrated Supreme Court of any president in fucking history so far, anyways, as best he can. And he's an asshole who works for the establishment and only listens to his donors. Meanwhile, Roosevelt's fucking got light coming out of his ass. Please.
Unequivocal advocacy for the working people of the United States. But
in what way?
Right now, they call it a corporate duopoly. Both parties
Who does?
Are owned. Not only, this is what I've seen in my campaign, not only are they owned by corporate interests.
Citation needed.
They are corporate interests.
Well, then how can you be owned by I'm enslaving myself. I'm just dirty that way. Put the ball, I'm the world's loneliest BDSM freak. I put in my own ball gag and spank myself. I'm owned and I'm poning myself. The fuck?
Bingo.
Bingo. Oh, God.
Bingo.
There is a political media industrial complex.
Oh, my God. With the industrial complex. A political media industrial complex. Let's see. How can I call the American people dough-headed fucking morons without calling them dough-headed fucking morons to their face? I know. I'll call them gullible saps who are in the control of the military media corporate industrial complex, which is too complex.
And that's why CNN isn't even having me on, even though I'm a declared candidate.
No, it's because you don't chart and you don't add anything valuable to the conversation. And you just might recognize that when, say, Sean Hannity has you on, it's only for your value attacking the president and the Democratic Party and not for whatever ideas or changes you might have, because coming on there and saying it's a uniparty system is the same shit we hear from the maggots.
Even though I'm higher in the polls than most of the people on that Republican debate stage the other night.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but they don't have a sitting president. We already have somebody and he's already running. We're good.
And so I'm not on, MSNBC and CNN do for the Democratic.
By the way, we have come a long way, baby, because as the second coming of Pat Robertson, the sort of California spiritualist version of Pat Robertson running for president, as a woman in the modern era, I think that shows progress. Congratulations, everybody, America! You can all just enjoy that for a moment. We've come a long way, baby, and not just because Roseanne's smoking Virginia Slims.
Party, what Fox does for the Republican Party. It's terrible. Mm-hmm. And that's why podcasts like this, independent media, you are independent media. And this.
That's why radical psychotic loners are important to the conversation. You are a radical psychotic loner. Hey, Roseanne, tell her the part about the African baby livers. Tell them how Hillary Clinton and Hakeem Jeffries eat the livers of African babies. Tell her that part. Marianne, you're going to love this. And by the way, I'm not kidding. Who in the chat was here when she brought this shit up? I have to say, chat room, who was here when we did that clip? We'll probably have to, if we make a clip of this, which we probably will, we should probably put that in the links below. Yeah. You guys were there. Who was there? Yep. Dibs on the pancreas. Yeah, there you go. Yes. So you guys remember, I'm not just like, I mean, I can make up a lot of shit. You know how that people go, you can't make this stuff up. I fucking can. I'm a genius. I can make up anything. I just don't. This is actually true. She actually fucking said this when she was talking to that Alex Stein dipshit, I think. Right? He was the guest on that. And even he was like, as nuts and as misogynistic and fucking stupid as that guy was, when she was saying stuff, he was like, oh, maybe it was wrong to walk into this room. He was having one of those, it's a cookbook moments.
This is where we can just have a regular conversation.
Yeah, regular conversation about eating African baby livers because they taste sweeter because they don't use Roundup.
And that's why it's important.
Yeah, ask her. Hey, Marianne, ask her son about that. Ask her about adrenochrome. She fucking have a shirt that says, ask me about adrenochrome.
Yeah, it's great to break through that big old veil of keeping us ignorant and silent.
Yes, it's better to be loud and silent. It's not the ignorance.
People are in a trance these days.
Say what? We're in a trance these days, are we? Are we? We're that stupid? This is, by the way, you're about to watch, I'm going to replay this moment. About to watch Marianne Williamson make a comment about the people that she is talking to on the trail. That apparently they are thuggishly stupid or hypnotized instead of in disagreement.
Keeping us ignorant and silent.
People are in a trance these days.
Can I ask a question, Marianne? You've kind of said that a few different ways.
Do you think it's because of the African baby livers, or
what do you think is causing this tribalism? If you could point to
besides you and your mom?
Tribalism and the fact that
yeah, that's my word, tribalism. But yeah, you've been saying there's.
Yeah, he made it up. I've never heard that word before. Have you guys heard the word tribalism? I don't know what he's referring to. We'll put a pin in that later. Somebody asterisk that. I don't know.
This thing going on. The media were right, left. That we're played with. Like, why do you think it's so different now? Why are you nostalgic for the 70s? And I know.
because she has eliminated all the negative parts of the 70s, forgotten about them. From Nixon to the Warren Report to fucking OPEC to the Iranian hostage crisis to the myriad of violent interactions, fucking Cold War. She's thrown all that out, and now she's just thinking about how cute it used to be that, Matthew McConaughey used to sit there by the school, that's the great thing about these high school girls. I keep getting older, but they keep seeing the same age. All right.
I know you're talking about corporate interests, but from a conversation,
yeah, things were better when we had leaded gas and leaded paint and
perspective, what do you think is behind it?
Because it's profit-based. So when your mother and I were young, the same company was legally forbidden to own the television station and the
That's
radio
right.
station and
Okay, so Reagan getting rid of the fairness doctrine,
and the news.
which, by the way, absolutely had an impact all during the 90s and the beginning of 2000s. But now with social media, has zero fucking impact.
Newspaper, because the diversity.
Because of cable. Once cable came in, it didn't fucking matter. Once you had satellite in your car, it didn't fucking matter. All the truckers back then, where, they were like, oh, we can't have these guys own all the AM stations as these truckers fucking drive through and they get indoctrinated into the Rush Limbaugh mentality or whatever. Now it doesn't fucking matter. They've got satellite in their fucking trucks. They can just listen to it all the way across. They used to have to fucking, remember back when your mom and I were kids, people used to say, hey, come on back there, give me a 1020 there. Come on, Cooter. This is Poontang Jenny. That is literally the worst handle in the history of CBs. Poontang Jenny. What happened? This is what happens when I do Ficus without Ficus. That is so bad. All right. It's so bad.
Of opinion was respected, and it was recognized.
No, it wasn't.
That was important for a healthy society.
Bullshit. Most of the AM radio dial was either pop music during part of the day and religious groups the rest of the fucking time who were way more fucking racist than they can get away with now.
And there was something called the fairness doctrine. And the fairness doctrine meant that you hear opposing views. So Ronald Reagan got rid of the fairness doctrine, and then Bill Clinton in
shepherded in the internet.
1996 with the telecommunications bill, all of the there was this conglomeratization, a few media companies. I'll give you an example. So if we were back, let's say in the 1960s or the 1970s.
When if you lived behind a hill like I did, you didn't have TV at all. I didn't have TV till I was 15 years old, till I moved to Chicago, lived with my dad. Lived in 14. TV. We didn't have a TV.
A reporter would come into their editor and say,
with film,
I have a lead and there's something I want to go investigate. I think that factory.
Were they smoking? They were smoking in this story, right?
Downriver is pouring poison into the river.
Well, then their editor would go, well, fuck it. That's not our problem. We're upriver. Factory, upriver. You're downriver. You don't want to be the reporter. I mean, I'm glad that he cares about the people up. Never mind. Just saying, which way does the river go?
And the editor would say,
that sounds dangerous. If the river ever reverses its course, that could be dangerous.
Get on it. Get on it. Find out. And
I remember. Yeah, remember the story of Silkwood, where that's how it worked out for her. Karen Silkwood totally wouldn't. Everything with her is all the president's men. Like nobody fucking shut down a story that was bad for whoever ran the fucking town in any particular city. What kind of cartoon idea of the past you fucking have? You out of your fucking mind?
And if it was good investigative journalism,
it was good investigative journalism.
There was a very good chance that reporter might get a Pulitzer Prize.
Or end up in a river.
Okay.
Downriver, of course.
Today, there's a very good chance that the same company that owns the factory owns the newspaper.
That's
Yeah. Jesus Christ. This is like the plot of a fucking A-Team episode. That shit happened all the time. Hey, fuckwad. There were all kinds of towns across this country where the newspaper was aligned with the fucking mayor who owned the big farm in town. And if they were poisoning the rivers and stream, they just fucking got away with it. What are you talking about?
right. And owns the prison.
And owns the prison. Which is empty, of course, because no one gets arrested.
Pardon?
And also owns interest in the prisons.
Interest in the they have prison stock. What? This is what this is what weaponized empathy looks like. This is like two people who actually think they're helping within limits, but this is years and years and years of half hearing slogans about political issues that have some depth worth looking into, but they don't fucking bother. And then they just all kind of blur together in this fucking smoothie of dumbassery.
That's true too. So today.
No, it's not true. What town are you, what fucking A-Team Hulk episode hitchhiker story? What town is this? The fuck? Can you imagine thinking this in right now about like every fucking suburb you drive through? Shit.
The editor would be more likely to say, no, we're not going to cover that. It's all profit making. When this is why you can either have short-term profits, when the news becomes a profit-making venture, it's like health becoming a profit-making venture. Not everything should be profit-making. Not everything should be about profit. And
okay, a moment. It depends on what you use the profit for. A company that makes money can make more money if it uses some of that money to expand its money-making ability. And if it makes it a more effective company and makes it a more trustworthy company, then it will make people trust it the next time around if, in the case of healthcare, they get sick or whatever. So the idea, we see this bullshit with Richard Wolff. Let me share an analogy with you guys that I hope you can grasp. If every spoonful of food that you took into your mouth used the movement of your arm, the food going into your mouth, and the chewing, masticating, and swallowing of that food, use the same amount of calories that was in the fucking food, you would die. You understand? You need caloric profit to stay alive. Yes, if all you ate was celery, you would die. It takes as much to consume as it does, as it gives. And you would get the sodium in it would kill you. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? Your entire system works on some level of profit. You get more from the activity that you're doing than you need. This is true of workers, or they wouldn't take the job. Unless you can work during certain hours and go home, or make enough money because you work extra hours to save up for a vacation or those kind of things. When you have those kind of options, that's what a middle class is all about. That's what we're trying to build here. That's what we're trying to expand here and offer to everybody. That's what you want. The worker is looking to get a profit from this situation. More value for their time than what's taken out by their workday. Right? That is profit. That is the worker's profit. You make more money than the one-to-one effort you are putting out in that day. Does that make sense? Right? And if you didn't, you would pass away. Any business that doesn't make a profit will collapse because it will stagnate and will be overrun by other companies that do. Now, what you do with the profit is meaningful. It used to be in the United States of America, and especially back in the fucking 70s when Marianne and Roseanne are talking about, it used to be that there was a class of people who could have stock, and that when you talked about paying back your investors or profit went to the investors in the company, that it was a very small group of fucking people. Nowadays, retail investors and pension funds, specifically around unions and everyone else, are a huge aspect of the stock market, for example. And those investors that make money off of the profits of these giant corporations are citizens themselves, are retirees, are retail fucking investors. Okay? This ain't the fucking 50s anymore. And it's certainly not the fucking 70s. In the 70s, nobody owned stock. There was like a class of people this fucking big, and that's why the stock market was at like 3,000. The reason politicians give a fuck about corporate profits these days is because those corporate profits, the one of the single biggest investors in these corporations that need a return on their money so that they can pay out to the people who the money that they have glommed together and invested in these companies are pension funds and are individual investors, which means that in working for the corporations the way Marianne talks about it, in these 70s terms, which would mean you were in league with the fucking corporations and you were basically just helping the rich become more profitable. Now, that is directly reflective of the average middle class voter. Why do you think Trump brings up people's fucking 401ks? What the fuck do you think the 401ks are? They're investment schemes in, quote unquote, corporations. So the idea that this is the fucking same, and I love that you guys are just naming 70s porn stars during all this. You're a little ahead of me on that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong. I look back wistfully at 70s porn when it was. Remember when porn was nice? Oh, how young were we? But all my friends had a crush on Barbara Dare. I don't know if you remember who she was. And it wasn't until, I think, much later that you had somebody like Kobe Tai come in and just sweep the floor with everybody. Biggest dickus. Yeah. So let's be abundantly clear. You cannot talk about the economic structures of the fucking 70s and the economic structures of now as if they are the same class of people are making the same investments, and that the money that's been created since the invention of the fucking personal computer has gone to the same fucking people. It's just, this is so goddamn lazy. Ugh. Don't get me started on Debbie Does Dallas. She never leaves Springfield. She doesn't do Dallas. I just feel like I think we've all felt a little let down by that storyline. She didn't do Dallas. The whole point is, never mind. Lesson learned. Does that make sense at least? You guys, this asshole's not going to get it, but does that make sense to you guys? That one of the reasons why both parties are interested in corporations and profits and all that kind of stuff is because more people in America, their financial well-being and their financial future is tied to investments in those companies than ever fucking before. Stop it. Stop pretending that you could flip-flop this nonsense. It's so fucking stupid. It's like the same assholes who talk about the founding fathers and slavery and the back and forth when half of them didn't own slaves. Only a small percentage of Americans owned slaves at that particular time. And even the ones that did, in the case of Jefferson, were looking for ways to get rid of it so that if they freed their slaves, somebody else would just snatch them up and treat them worse. Like, stop trying to project now onto then as if you just magically grew up knowing that life should be this way. When if you'd been, raised in the court of the king of Zanzibar, you'd be in the slave trade. Just fuck off with this idea that you can just kind of retroactively overlay this fucking onion skin of morality on the past, or magically just make it all just, it was so much better back then. The past sucked. All of it. Everything up till a half hour ago was complete shit. Again, that's why time moves forward. Because with every tick of the clock, time is going, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that. Your grandparents had stock? Well, they were the rare few. And they were buying silver certificates and shit like that. Wasn't like now. There was no Robinhood. There was no E-Trade. None of that. All right. Back to these dum-dums.
When you have that, you can either have short-term profits as your bottom line and your governing principle, short-term profits for corporations, or you can have people, democracy, humanitarian values.
No. There's definitely a push for short-term profits in certain areas. But one of the things you get about legacy media and legacy corporations is that they would like to be around. And if you're trying to lure investors in, especially long-term, you're going to have a 10-year plan for how you're going to be around.
Safety or health.
But everything to them is fucking Martin Skrillex.
Well-being.
Don't you think a big mistake was when they passed that Citizens United, when they said
that was everything?
Yeah,
that was like the death knell, because that has so released all this what's called dark money, corporate influence.
Hi, you do realize that the Citizens United you're talking about is how channels like Roseanne's actually exist. Just saying. Because groups and super PACs can dump money on shows like hers and buy ad space or whatever, and there's no limit on it. And it still doesn't matter, because people will believe what they're going to believe.
That's the worst thing of all. And the only way we can override that is with a revolution at the ballot box.
Well, you can't have a revolution at the ballot box, because America's full of dough-headed fucks who are hypnotized by the super PAC ads on the TV all the time. And you can tell, because when you talk to them, it's like they're hypnotized, because they're looking at you like you're a fucking crazy person. And it can't be that you're talking crazy. It must be that they are just...
The only way we can override that is through we the people.
I like to
explain what that is.
Huh?
Can you explain to our... Yeah, one of you. Just people don't know.
People don't know what Citizens United is. They're so dumb. Everybody watches this. They don't even know that Democrats eat baby livers.
Well, they...
Here it comes. Tell us how... Yeah. Run. By the way, now here's the hard part. How does Roseanne bring up the Hillary Clinton aspect of the Citizens United ruling without bringing up to Roseanne, that she eats baby livers? How?
They basically passed a law that a corporation has as much human rights as a human being, a citizen.
Not quite.
And they had said, which it had been determined that corporations have the right to pay, which is sick in and of itself. But they with that decision, they gave these corporations unlimited power.
No, I don't know if you know this, but corporations do not have unlimited power
to influence political elections. And
I think it's limited to the fact that people just think. I think there are limitations on what people will believe. What am I talking about? You're on a show with a woman who thinks that Democrats eat baby livers.
I tell you, I'm in the belly of the beast right now.
Yes, it's the Hyatt belly of the beast. it's a 5-star Belly of the Beast, but it's still the Belly of the Beast has a wonderful coffee shop in the lobby and a continental breakfast that is to die for. I did not realize that the Belly of the Beast has separate hand soap and body soap in the little packets that you shut the fuck up.
I've
Yeah,
seen
you
how
are.
Yeah, you are, just like I am. And by Belly of the Beast, I mean an estate in Hawaii.
works. There's character assassination. It's dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you're engaged in. There's character assassination. I don't know why they flicked to this motherfucker. He's just like, he puts the camera on himself. He's actually switching the cameras. Like, as soon as she said character assassination, he's like, he's like, that's me.
I saw it firsthand.
You're aware, Ma. Yeah, you've been through it.
Yeah, in 2012, I wanted to see it.
Yeah, so I just said some racist shit just to see if they were serious.
So I could know about it for myself. But yeah,
Yeah. Nobody's really racist or gross or bigoted or anything like that. They just do it to see. Let me see if there's a real reaction to this. I'm just going to test the waters. See if America's really as pro-racist as I think. Oh, they're not. Oh, shit. I lost my what? Oh, my job. I see.
there's no democracy in it. That much I know. That's the last thing there is.
Democracy, as in demonocracy, as democrats. Yeah, she's drawing it back because she recognizes she's talking to Marianne, so she's half-assing her demoncrats thing.
You know, I'm worried for our country. I loved that you when you were speaking about the problem with the immigrants.
Yes, I loved when you were talking about the problem with the immigrants. Please go on.
You were brave enough to say, well, let's look at the U.S. drug laws role in all of that. And what the people are escaping is cartels created by our U.S. drug laws.
No, I would say that they were created by the demand side of a supply and demand market.
And that's so right on. I'm glad you said that. That was
Thank you.
great.
You know, Richard Nixon started the war on drugs in 1971, and he called drugs public enemy number one.
And in the last year, fentanyl has killed 113,000 Americans, which, I mean, they were going to die anyways. You know, I think we should just legalize all of it because you can't save everybody. And if kids, think, if we don't tell them drugs are bad, maybe they'll stop rebelling by using it. And,
Now, once again, we're old enough to remember drugs in 1971 were not public enemy number one.
Okay. A, yes, they were. And B, they weren't 1/16th as powerful.
And John Ehrlichman, who was one of the Watergate people who then worked for Nixon and went to jail, when he got out of prison, he spilled the beans about everything. And he talked about how when we started the drug war, he said, of course, Nixon knew it wasn't public enemy number one. And he did.
Pot. That was pot. Nobody's even discussing fucking OxyContin and oxycodone and fentanyl and shit like that.
It is partly an attack on black communities, etc. We have spent,
because it was weed. That we know that. Again, don't make the same mistake that the Nixon administration did, and just adding pot to the war on drugs, and then pretend it's all one big mush, and therefore heroin's okay.
$1 trillion on the drug war. It clearly has not helped.
Debatable.
It has made things even worse.
No, it hasn't. Honestly, most people are using pharmaceuticals.
You have, when I was in college, we had 300,000 people in prison. We now have 2.3 million.
Because of the fingerprint and VICAP systems. You don't think You don't think those people are in there because they had fucking a bag of weed on them, and so they're in federal prison for that? You out of your fucking mind? Here's something that was big in the 70s and 80s. People like Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy could kill people and they would just fucking disappear because you didn't even have driver's license with fucking pictures on them. And you could, and if they were close to catching you, shit, you could just go to the next state. The coordinating aspect, even if the FBI was on your trail in Colorado, you head down to Florida, there's not even a picture of you on your fucking driver's license. You can kill a bunch of people down there, and if you're caught, you just give them a fake name. What the fuck do they know? There's no internet. There's nothing tying this shit together. People disappeared in the 70s. They fucking stayed disappeared. Jesus Christ. Every cold case show you're watching is all before DNA, all before fucking Apple Watches, dummy.
And almost half of all federal prisoners are there for nonviolent drug offenses.
Nonsense. First of all, nonviolent drug offenses does not constitute like dealing. If you're there for massive dealing, that's not nonviolent drug offenses. The woman that Trump pardoned, she had like 9 fucking guys killing people for her. She was selling massive amounts of coke. She was a huge drug dealer. Nonviolent. Jesus Christ. Nonviolent like Al Capone was largely nonviolent because he had hitmen do his work for him. Get the fuck out of here. Stop it. And she let the guys who killed for her, they're still in prison. Those guys didn't fucking get pardoned. Because they were what? The violent drug offenders? Because she told them who to kill and they did it? Get out of here.
So we now...
And by the way, I don't even know where the fuck she's getting that number. No. There is effectively no war on drugs right now, Groove Dragon, in the chat room. People are saying, like, end the drug war. The drug war petered out in the 90s. People were being moved to, like, treatment and that kind of stuff as far back as fucking 91. Jesus Christ. We declared a ceasefire on the drug war well before it ended. And we have effectively surrendered a giant portion of our populace to drugs in the process. In the name of legalizing pot, we've basically said, fuck anybody who dies of fentanyl, fuck anybody who, mixes drugs together or gets their hands on some oxycodone, some Oxycontin. There's you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs, and the legalization of weed was important. Therefore, fuck everybody. And we are making the same mistake with drugs that Nixon made. He was saying pot's as bad as opium, and we're saying in the name of pot not being bad, nothing is bad. And therefore, fuck it. Let it all slide. Because it's all nonviolent, because it's a victimless crime. These people are just doing it to themselves. Even though you can talk about addiction, half these people who are dying of fentanyl aren't addicted to anything. They're dying the first time they try it.
We now spend $100 billion a year. And we, for a fraction of that.
Yes, keeping rapists, violent felons, and murderers in jail and giving them health care and 3 hots and a cot.
That money could create a world-class network of recovery options.
We have a world-class network of recovery options. We have private recovery centers that people get diverted into all the fucking time. And unless you want to set up asylum systems again, like mental institutions for these folks, yeah.
When you and I knew each other in LA, we knew people in AA. Recovery was a corner of things. Drug addiction now is an ubiquitous problem.
Right. So your point is, since we stopped throwing, low-level drug dealers in jail, since we stopped fighting the war on drugs, since we effectively declared a truce in the war on drugs and started diverting people, now it's all over the place. This is just a fucking, by the way, this is a very complex conversation. I'm more commenting on the idiocy of this, the dough-headed response to this that you're seeing on your screen from these folks.
And we're not solving it by criminalizing it. We need to change it to a health issue rather than a criminal issue.
It is largely. We're not throwing users in jail. This ain't the fucking 70s, back when she was like, things were so easy back in the 70s. You mean when we were throwing anybody who did drugs in jail? Jesus Christ.
And that's what countries like Portugal do. Meanwhile, we take away the black market because the drug cartels all this power, because the drugs, as long as there's a hunger for them, they're gonna, right? So they have this black market that
right,
would make a big dent in the power of the drug cartels, and it would also free us up to address the one drug, which I don't even think of as a drug. I think of it as a weapon. I think of it as a poison. I think of it as
fentanyl, she means, I guess.
Something that needs all of our attention, of course, and that is the fentanyl crisis.
So you see, what the fuck was that? That's her theme song? Good Lord. Yeah, again, this is such an idiotic conversation about something that requires some actual depth. And the idea that, here's my big problem with it. In all this discussion that they bring up, she's bouncing all over the fucking place. And literally talking to someone, in the case of Roseanne, whose brain was largely fried by her usage. And her idea that, it doesn't matter, it's just fucking stuff. You know, the government's wrong about all of it, and therefore I will take it just to show them. In the same way that I was racist, just to test the waters. Grow the fuck up. If you can't recognize the difference between, say, like alcohol and pot and opioids, and especially pharmaceutical opioids like fentanyl, like oxycodone, oxycontin, those kind of things, and the fact that go watch The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia and tell me that we're talking about a standard kind of like addiction sorrow cycle. The oversimplification of the conversation around this is what's infuriating. You can talk about the fact that some people find great medical facility in pot and still not go, we need to, look the other way when people are selling giant bags of fucking fentanyl, oxycodone, and oxycontin. And that's exactly what she's asking for. Just like, well, there's an appetite for it. So yeah, if you try to stop it at all, the sale of it on the fucking street, then, obviously you're empowering the cartels. Get the fuck out of here. Like, can we talk about this shit like actual goddamn grown-ups?